Hi, good evening everybody, and welcome to the Pearse Theater and to the AGNI Acting Conservatory's inaugural production of The Lesson by Eugene Ionescu. The play runs approximately 60 minutes, and in the unlikely event of a fire, please exit through the door you came in and also at the rear of the theater. And please also ensure that all mobile phone devices are turned off. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Mademoiselle.
Good morning. Is the professor at home?
Have you come for your lesson?
Yes, that's right.
He's been expecting you. Take a seat. I'll go and tell him you're here.
Thank you.
Will you come down, please, sir? Your pupil has arrived.
I'm coming in 2 minutes.
Oh.
Good morning. Good morning. You are, I suppose you really are, the new pupil.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. You see, I came at the right time. I didn't want to be late.
Good. Yes, that's very good. But you shouldn't have worried too much, you know. I don't know quite how to apologize to you for having kept you waiting. I was just finishing, you understand. I beg your pardon. You will forgive me.
Oh, but you mustn't, sir. It's perfectly all right, sir.
I apologize. Did you have any trouble finding the house?
Not a bit, not a little bit. But then I asked the way. Everyone here knows you.
Yes, I've lived in the town for 30 years. But I believe you have not been here too long. How do you like it?
Oh, I don't dislike it at all. It's a very pretty town, charming, really. A nice park, a girls' boarding school, and then there's a big shop and lovely shops and streets and lovely music.
Quite right, but of course you're quite right. And yet, you know, I'd just as soon live somewhere else. Paris, for example, or at least Bordeaux.
Do you like Bordeaux, sir?
I can't really say. I don't really know.
But do you know Paris?
Like Bordeaux, you know, not exactly. But if you will allow me, could you perhaps tell me now? Paris is the chief town of...
Chief town of France?
But yes, of course, yes. Bravo, that's fine. Excellent. My warmest congratulations, mademoiselle. You have the geography of your country at your fingertips. Your chief towns.
Oh, I don't know them all yet, sir. It's not so easy as that. It's quite difficult to learn them.
Oh, it will come in time. Take heart, mademoiselle. I beg your... A little patience. Quietly does it. You'll see, it'll come. Beautiful weather we're having. Or perhaps not so. But then, after all, why not? At least it's not too bad, and that's the main thing. It's not raining. In fact, it's not snowing either.
That would be rather surprising in the summer, sir.
Forgive me, mademoiselle. I was just going to say that. But you will learn that one must be prepared for anything.
Yes, sir, naturally.
In this world of ours, mademoiselle, you can never be sure of anything.
Snow falls in the winter. Winter is one of the four seasons. The other three are
Yes.
spring, and then there is summer, and
It begins like automobile, mademoiselle.
oh yes, autumn.
Ah, that's quite right. Very good answer. Excellent. You will prove to be a very good pupil. You will make good progress. You are intelligent. You seem well informed. Good memory.
I really do know my seasons, don't I, sir?
No, you do indeed. Or should I say almost. But it will come in time. And anyway, it's not too bad now. You'll come to know them all one day, all your seasons with your eyes shut like me.
It's very difficult.
Not really. Only a little effort, mademoiselle. A little goodwill, and you'll see it will come, I promise you.
Oh, I do hope so, sir. I'm thirsty for knowledge, and then my parents too. They want most hopefully for me to persevere in my studies. They would like me to specialize. They believe that nowadays a little general culture, however some little, just doesn't go far enough.
Mademoiselle, your parents are perfectly right. You must continue your studies. I apologize for saying so, but it is really quite essential. Modern life has become very complex.
And so complicated. Of course, I'm lucky. My parents own body off, so that I could take the highest degree they are.
And you would like to apply for an interview?
As soon as possible to start working for my doctor's degree. It's in 3 weeks.
Yes, well, you will allow me to put the question. You already have your school evening certificate?
Yes, sir, for arts and science.
Oh, but you are so well developed for your age. And what doctorate do you wish to read for? Material science or normal philosophy?
My parents would really prefer me to read for all the doctorates. If you think it's possible in such short a time.
All the doctorates? You are a very courageous young lady. I must congratulate you most sincerely. Well, mademoiselle, we'll do our best for you. And besides, you're most knowledgeable already and so young too. All right then, we have hardly any time to lose. If you'll allow me, if you will be so kind, perhaps we should make a start.
Not at all, sir. Please don't apologize. I'm anxious to start.
Perhaps then you would be so kind as to take this chair, this one here, and if I may be permitted, mademoiselle, that is if you have no objections, I will take this one here opposite you.
Certainly, sir. Please do.
Thank you, mademoiselle. There we are then. You have your textbooks and your notebooks with you.
Yes, sir. Of course, I've got all we need.
Excellent, that's excellent. Well, then, perhaps, if you really don't mind, we could begin.
Of course, sir. I'm quite ready for you, sir.
Ready for me? It is I who am ready for you, mademoiselle. I am at your service.
Oh, really, sir?
Well, then, if you, that is to say, I'll begin by giving you you a brief examination on the knowledge you have acquired so far, and that will give me an idea as to the lines we must work on in the future. Good? How do you feel about your perception of plurality?
A little vague and confused.
Fine, we'll take a look at it. Well, now, mademoiselle, what do you say to trying a little arithmetic? That is, if you don't mind.
But of course, sir, willingly. I couldn't ask for anything better.
It's a fairly new science, a modern science. Strictly speaking, one should call it method rather than a science. It's also a therapy. Marie, have you finished yet?
Yes, sir. I've just finished what I was doing and now I'm going.
Hurry up and go back to the kitchen.
Yes, sir, I'm going. I beg your pardon, sir. But please be careful. Not too much excitement.
Don't be so ridiculous, Marie. Nothing whatever to worry about.
But that's what you always say.
Your insinuations are entirely without foundation. I'm perfectly capable of behaving myself. After all, I'm old enough.
That's just it, sir. You'd much better not start the mademoiselle off with arithmetic. For you see, it's the arithmetic that never did anyone any good. And besides, it does make you tired and upset you, sir.
I'm too old for this now, Marie. And what business is it of yours anyway? This is my concern, and I know what I'm doing. You've no right to be here anyway.
Very well, monsieur. But don't you go telling me that I didn't warn you.
I'm not interested in your warnings, Marie.
The monsieur must do as he thinks is best.
I'm sorry about this stupid interruption. You must understand that this poor woman is always afraid I shall tire myself. She's worried about my health.
It doesn't matter, sir. It's just she's devoted to you. She must be very fond of you. Good servants are hard to find.
She really goes too far. It's stupid to be so nervous. Let us get back to our arithmetical sheet.
I follow you, sir.
But still sitting down, I see.
Just like you, sir.
Good. Then shall we arithmetize a little?
I'd be pleased to, sir.
Then perhaps you wouldn't mind telling me.
Not in the slightest, sir. Please, go ahead.
What do 1 and 1 make?
1 and 1 makes 2.
But that's a very good answer. You're very well advanced in your studies. You will have very little difficulty passing all your doctorate examinations.
I'm very pleased to hear it, sir. Especially from you.
Let us proceed a little further. What do 2 and 1 make?
3,
3 and 1.
4,
4 and 1.
5,
5 and 1.
6,
6 and 1.
7,
7 and 1.
8,
7 and 1.
8,
Very good answer. 7 and 1.
8 again.
Excellent. Perfect. 7 and 1.
8 for the first time, and sometimes 9.
Magnificent. You're magnificent. Sublime. My warmest congratulations, mademoiselle. There's no point in going on. You're quite first rate at addition. Let us try subtraction. Just tell me now, that is, if you're not too tired, what is left when you take 3 from 4?
3 from 4. 3 from 4.
Yes, that's it. I mean to say, what is 4 minus 3?
That makes 7.
I'm extremely sorry to have to contradict you, mademoiselle. It doesn't make 7. You're muddling it up. 3 plus 4, that makes 7. Take 3 away from 4, and that makes... It's not a question of adding up. Now you must subtract.
Yes, I see.
3 from 4, that makes how many? How many?
4?
No, that's not the right answer, mademoiselle.
3 then.
That's not right either. I beg your pardon, it doesn't make 3. I'm terribly sorry.
4 minus 3. 3 away from 4. 4 minus 3. I suppose it would make 10.
Oh dear me, no, mademoiselle. But you mustn't rely on guesswork. You must reason it out. Shall we try and solve this together? Would you be so good as to count?
Yes, sir. 1, 2, 3.
You know how to count, all right. You can count up to what number?
I can count up to infinity.
That's impossible.
Up to 16 then.
Quite far enough. We should all recognize our limitations. Go on counting then, if you please.
1, 2, and then after 2 comes 3, 4.
Stop there, mademoiselle. Which number is the greater, 3 or 4?
Which one is the greater number out of 3 and 4? In what way greater?
Some numbers are smaller than others. In the greater numbers, there are more units than there are in the smaller ones.
Than in the smaller numbers?
Unless, of course, the smaller numbers are made up of smaller units. If all the units are very small, then there may be more units in the smaller numbers than there are in the bigger ones, assuming that the units are not of the same kind.
In that case, small number can be bigger than big numbers?
Yes, well, we won't go into that. That would take us much too far. I just want you to realize that there are other things apart from numbers. There are sizes and totals too, and then there are groups and heaps. Heaps of things like ducks and drakes and cabbages and kings, etc., etc. Let us just suppose, to make it easier, that the numbers that we're dealing with are all of the same kind. Then the greatest numbers will be those with the most units, assuming that all the units are of the same kind too.
The one that has the most will be the greatest? Now I understand, so you equate quality with quantity.
That's a little too theoretical, mademoiselle. Too theoretical. You don't have to worry about that. Let us just take an example and think about it in that particular case. Our general conclusions can come later. We have the number 3 and the number 4. Each one having an identical number of units. Which one will be the greater, the smaller number or the greater number?
I'm sorry, sir, but what do you mean by the greater number? Is it the one that is less small than the other one?
That's it, mademoiselle. Exactly. You've understood perfectly.
Then it must be 4.
What is 4? Greater or smaller than 3?
Smaller. No, greater.
Excellent answer, mademoiselle. How many units are missing between 3 and 4? Between 4 and 3, if you'd rather.
The only units are between 3 and 4. 4 comes immediately after 3. There is nothing at all between 3 and 4.
I can't have made myself understood properly. It's doubtless my own fault. I haven't been clear enough.
Oh no, sir, the fault is entirely mine.
Listen. Here are 3 matches. And here's another one. That makes 4. Now watch carefully, mademoiselle. I take 1 away and that leaves you with
5. If 3 and 1 make 4, 4 and 1 make 5.
No, that's not right at all. That's not it at all. You have a constant predilection for adding up, but it is also necessary to subtract. Integration alone is not enough. Disintegration is necessary too. That's what life is, and philosophy, that's science, progress, civilization.
Yes, sir.
Let us get back to our matches. There are 4 of them then. You can see that there are 4, all right? Now watch carefully. I take 1 away, and that leaves you with...
I don't know, sir.
Come now, think a little. It's not easy, I admit, and yet you're clever enough to make the intellectual effort to succeed in understanding. Well then...
Don't seem to, sir. I really don't know, sir.
All right. Let us take some simpler examples. Say you had 2 noses and I took 1 off. How many would you have left?
No.
What do you mean, none?
Well, it's just because you haven't plugged 1 off that I still got 1 now. If you had plugged it off, it wouldn't be there anymore.
You haven't understood my example. Say you had only 1 ear.
Yes, and then?
I stick on another one. How many do you have?
2.
Good. I stick on yet another one. How many do you have?
3 is.
Excellent. I take 1 away. How many ears do you have left?
2.
Good. I take another one away. How many do you have left?
2.
No. You have 2. I take 1 away. I nibble 1 off. How many do you have left?
2.
I nibble 1 off. 1 of them.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
No. The example is not convincing enough. Listen to me.
Yes, sir.
You have You have...
10 fingers.
Good, that's fine if you like. You have 10 fingers then.
Yes, sir.
How many would you have if you had 5 of them?
10, sir.
No, you're wrong.
But I should, sir.
I tell you, you're wrong.
But you just told me that I have 10.
And then I told you immediately afterwards that you have 5.
But I haven't got 5, I've got 10.
Let us proceed in a different way. A little patience, mademoiselle. You'll see, I'm going to help you to understand. Let us, for the purpose of subtraction, limit ourselves to the numbers 1 to 5. Now watch carefully, mademoiselle. You can see all right?
Yes, sir.
These are sticks, mademoiselle. Sticks, you understand. Here's 1 stick, and there are 2 sticks, and 1, 2, 3 sticks in all, 4 sticks, and 5 sticks, and so on and so on. 1 stick, 2 sticks, 3, 4, and 5 sticks. These are numbers. When we count the sticks, each stick is a unit, mademoiselle. Repeat what I just said.
Unit, mademoiselle. Repeat what I have just said.
Either figures or numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The elements of numeration, mademoiselle.
Yes, sir. Elements, units, that are sticks, numbers.
At one and the same time. That is to say, in point of fact, that the whole of arithmetic boils down to that.
Yes, sir. Very good, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now, we can make use of the figures and numbers to count, either add up or subtract.
Elements, figures, that are sticks, and units and numbers.
In a manner of speaking, and then...
You can subtract 2 units from 3 units. But can you subtract 2 figures from 4 numbers and 3 numbers from 1 unit?
No, mademoiselle, you cannot.
But why not, sir?
Just because, mademoiselle.
But because what, sir? Since they're all the same.
It's just the way things are. It can't be explained. You understand it by a sort of mathematical sense inside you. You've either got it or you haven't.
There's nothing can help me then.
Listen, mademoiselle. If you don't succeed in fully understanding these archetypal arithmetical principles, then you won't be succeeding carrying out your work properly as a polytechnician. And what's more, no one could consider putting you in for a course at a polytechnic school or even an establishment for infants. I admit it's not easy. It's obvious that it's very, very abstract. But if you have not mastered these elementary propositions, how can you hope to make mental calculations such as, and this would be as easy as winking to an average engineer, such as, how many is 3,755,998,251 multiplied by 5,162,303,508?
That makes 19 quintillion, 390 quadrillion, 2 trillion, 844 billion, 390 million, 164,508.
No, that must make 19 quintillion, 390 quadrillion, 2 trillion, 844 billion, 219 million, 164,509.
No, 508.
Yes. You're right, by Jove. Yours is the correct product. Quintillion, quadrillion, billion, trillion, million, 164,508. But how did you arrive at that answer if you don't understand the principles of arithmetic calculations?
Oh, it's quite easy, really. As I can't depend on reasoning it out, I just learned off by heart all the possible combinations in multiplication.
Combinations are infinite.
I managed to do it anyway.
That's astounding. Nevertheless, You will allow me to point out that I am by no means satisfied, mademoiselle, and you will have to do without my congratulations. In mathematics, and particularly in arithmetic, what counts, and you cannot get away from counting in arithmetic, what counts above all else is your ability to understand what you are doing. You should have arrived at your answer through a dual process of inductive and deductive reasoning, and that's how you should arrive at all your answers. Memory is the deadly enemy to mathematics, and though it has certain advantages, arithmetically speaking, memory is a bad thing. So I'm not at all happy about you. That just won't do at all.
No, sir.
We'll forget about it for the moment. Let us pass on to another kind of exercise.
Yes, sir.
Monsieur!
It's a great pity, mademoiselle, that you're not more advanced in special mathematical studies.
Monsieur!
And
Monsieur!
I'm afraid you can hardly consider going in for the total doctorate.
Oh, what a
At
shame.
least if you leave me alone. What on earth do you think you're up to? Back to the kitchen and you're washing up. Go on, go on. Still, I think I should try and prepare you at least for the partial doctorates.
Monsieur! Monsieur!
For goodness sake, let go of me, leave me alone. What the devil do you mean by it? I think then I should teach you, if you're really anxious to go in for the partial doctorates.
Oh, yes, please.
The essentials of linguistics and comparative philology.
No! Monsieur, no! I shouldn't do that if I were you.
Marie, now you're really going too far.
Of all things, not philology. Philology is the worst of all.
The worst of all. What a funny thing to say.
That's too much. Leave the room.
Very well, monsieur, very well. But don't you go saying I didn't warn you. Philology is the worst of all.
I am over 21, Marie.
Yes, sir.
Well, monsieur must do as he thinks is best.
Shall we go on, mademoiselle?
Please, sir.
Then I shall ask you to follow this prepared course of mine with the closest attention.
Yes, sir.
Thanks to which you may in 15 minutes acquire the fundamental principles of the linguistic and comparative philology of the Neo-Spanish languages.
Oh, sir, how marvelous.
Silence. What's all this for?
I'm sorry, sir.
Silence. Spanish, then, mademoiselle, is actually the mother language that gave birth to all the Neo-Spanish languages, among which we include Spanish, Latin, Italian, our own French, Portuguese, Romanian, Sardinian or Sardanapalus, Spanish, and Neo-Spanish. And in certain respects we may also add Turkish. Itself, however, rather closer to Greek, and that being, after all, perfectly understandable, Turkey being Greece's neighbour, and Greece lying closer to Turkey than either you or I, which is another illustration of a very important linguistic law, according to which geography and philology are twins. You may take notes, mademoiselle.
Yes, sir.
What distinguishes the Neo-Spanish languages one from the other and separates them from the other linguistic groups, such as the group comprising Austrian and Neo-Austrian or Habsburgian languages, or such groups as the Esperantos, Helvetic, Monegasque, Swiss, Andorran, Basque, Balata, not to mention the diplomatic and technical language groups. What distinguishes them, I say, is their striking resemblance to one another, so that it is extremely difficult to tell them apart. I am speaking of the Neo-Spanish languages themselves, which, however, can be differentiated thanks to their distinctive characteristics. Unquestionable and indisputable evidence of that remarkable resemblance that renders their common origin indisputable and at the same time clearly differentiates them through the conservation of those distinctive characteristics I have just mentioned.
Oh, sir.
But let us not linger over generalities.
Oh, sir.
You seem interested in this. All the better.
Oh, yes, sir, I am.
Don't worry, mademoiselle. We'll come back to it later. Unless, of course, we don't come back to it at all. Who can say?
Oh, yes.
Every language, mademoiselle. Note this carefully, and remember it till the day you die.
Yes, sir. Till the day I die. Yes, sir.
And again, this is another fundamental principle. Every language is, in fact, only a manner of speaking, which inevitably implies that it is made up of sounds or...
Phonics?
I was just about to say so. Don't show off airing your knowledge. You'd better just listen.
Very well, sir. Yes, sir.
Sounds, mademoiselle, should be caught in flight by the wings so they do not fall on deaf ears. Consequently, when you have made up your mind to articulate, you are recommended insofar as possible to stretch your neck and chin well up and to stand right on the tips of your toes like this, you see?
Yes, sir.
Be quiet, sit where you are, and don't interrupt. And to let the sound out with the full force of your lungs, assisted by the vocal cords like this. Watch me. Butterfly, Eureka, Trafalgar, Pepper Pot. In this way, the sounds filled with warm air, lighted in the air all around, float on and on, no longer in danger of falling on deaf ears. Bottomless pits that are the veritable graves of lost sonorities. If you emit several sounds at an increased speed, they will automatically grapple onto one another, thus constituting syllables, words, phrases if needs be. And by that I mean groupings of more or less importance. Sounds arranged in a purely irrational way, devoid of all sense, and yet for that very reason, able to maintain themselves in the upper air without risk of falling at quite high altitudes. Only words charged with significance, heavy with meaning, dive downwards, and always succumb in the end, crumpling up and
Falling on their ears?
quite right. But don't interrupt. An indescribable chaos are bursting like balloons. And so, mademoiselle, what's the matter with you?
I've got toothache, sir.
No matter, we're not stopping for a little thing like that. To continue.
Yes, sir. I've got toothache.
To continue.
Yes.
Summing up then, learning to pronounce takes years and years. Thanks to science, we are able to do it within a few minutes. And so that we can make sounds and words and anything you like, you must realize that the air needs to be forced pitilessly out of the lungs and made to travel gently over the vocal cords, lightly brushing them, so that like harps or leaves beneath the wind, they suddenly start quivering, trembling, vibrating, or hissing, or rustling, or bristling, or whistling, and with the whistle set everything in motion, overlap, tongue, palate, teeth,
I've got toothache.
lips. Finally, words come out through the nose, the mouth, the ears, the pores of the skin, bringing in their train all the uprooted organs of speech we have just named. A powerful, majestic swarm, no less than what we improperly call the voice. Modulating in song, or rising in terrible symphonic wrath. A regular procession, sheaves of a sort of blossoms of sonorous conceits, labials, dentals, plosives, partals, and the rest, some soft and gentle, some harsh and violent.
Yes, I've got toothache.
We go on. As for the Neo-Spanish languages themselves, they are considered such very near relations that we might almost consider them as second cousins. Moreover, they share the same mother. Spanish! The H is unaspirated! That is why it is so difficult to tell them apart. That is why it helps so much to pronounce properly, to avoid mistakes in pronunciation. Pronunciation is in itself worth a whole dialect. Bad pronunciation can play you some funny tricks. Allow me, while we're on the subject, to tell you a little personal story of mine in parentheses. It was when I was very young, a little more than a child perhaps. I was doing my military service. I had a friend in the regiment of Viscount who had a rather serious speech defect. He was unable to pronounce the letter F. If he wanted to say F, he used to say F. If he wanted to say fresh fields and pastures new, he used to say fresh fields and pastures new. He pronounced Philly as Philly, Franklin instead of Franklin, Fimblerigger instead of Fimblerigger, Fiddlesticks instead of Fiddlesticks, Funny Face instead of Funny Face, Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum instead of I smell the blood of an Englishman, Philip instead of Philip, Victory instead of Victory, February instead of February, April, May instead of April, May, Gallery Lafayette, and that is it should be pronounced, Gallery Lafayette, Napoleon instead of Napoleon, etc. instead of etc. and so on, etc. Only he was able to disguise this defect so well, thanks to his choice of hats, that no one ever noticed it.
Yes, I've got to think.
Let us go on. We shall first examine the points of similarity, so that later on we might better understand what distinguishes these languages one from another. The differences are scarcely perceptible to anyone not experienced in detecting them, and thus all words in all languages...
Oh, yes. Oh, I've got to think.
We go on, are always the same, as are all flexional endings, all suffixes, all prefixes, all roots.
Are the roots of words square roots?
Square or cubic, it depends.
I've got to think.
To continue, I will give you an example, which is barely more than an illustration. Take the word front.
How am I to take it?
How you like, just as long as you take it. But whatever you do, don't interrupt.
I've got to think.
The word front. Then, have you taken it?
Yes, I've got it. Oh, my tooth.
The word front is the root word in frontispiece, also in effrontery. Ispiece is a suffix, F a prefix. They are so called because they do not alter, they do not want to.
I've got to think.
To continue quickly now. These prefixes are of Spanish origin. I sincerely hope you realize that.
Oh, my tooth.
And you must also have realized that it's the same in French and even in English. All right, mademoiselle, there's no way of altering them in Latin, Italian, nor in Portuguese, nor Sardinaplis or Sardinian, nor Romanian, nor Spanish, or near Spanish, nor even in Oriental. Frontispiece, effrontery, always and invariably the same word with the same suffix, same root, same meaning in all of the above-mentioned languages. And it's the same for every word.
Those words mean the same thing in all languages. I've got to think.
Exactly. Besides, it's really more of a concept than a word. In any case, you always have the same word with the same meaning, same composition, same structure, sound, not only for this word, but in every word you can conceive, in every language, for each concept is expressed by one and the same word and its synonyms in every country of the world. Oh, leave your tooth alone.
Oh, I've got to think. I am.
Good. Let us go on, I said. Let us go on. How, for example, would you say in English, the roses of my grandmother are as yellow as my grandfather who was born in Asia?
To think.
Come along now, it doesn't stop you from saying it.
In English?
In English.
You want me to say in English the roses of my grandmother?
Are as yellow as my grandfather who was born in Asia?
Well, then one would say in English, I think, the roses of my... How to say grandmother in English?
English grandmother.
The roses of my grandmother. Yellow in English, you say yellow?
Yes, of course.
As yellow as my grandfather when he lost his temper.
No. Who was born?
In Asia, I've got to think.
That's right.
I've got
Toothache, never mind. Let us go on. Now, I want you to translate that sentence into Spanish and then into Neo-Spanish.
In Spanish, it must be the roses of my grandmother are as yellow as my grandfather who was born in Asia.
No, that's wrong.
And in Neo-Spanish, the roses of my grandmother are as yellow as my grandfather who was born in Asia.
Wrong. You've mixed them up. You've mistaken Spanish for Neo-Spanish and Neo-Spanish for Spanish. Oh, no, it's just the other way round.
I've got to think, and you're muddling everything up.
It's you who are muddling me up. You be more attentive. I will first say the sentence in Spanish, and then in Neo-Spanish, and lastly in Latin. You must repeat them after me. Be very careful, for the similarities are surprising. The similarities are identical. Listen and follow me carefully.
I've got
Toothache.
let us go! Ha!
In Spanish. The roses of my grandmother are as yellow as my grandfather who was born in Asia. In Latin. The roses of my grandmother are as yellow as my grandfather who was born in Asia. Do you catch the distinction?
I'm sorry, sir.
Translate that sentence into Romanian.
Oh, my toothaches! I don't hear any difference.
But it's so simple. So perfectly simple. It's merely a question of practice, of having a certain technical knowledge of all the diverse languages, so diverse in spite of their identical characteristics they share. I'll try to give you a key.
Toothache.
What distinguishes them is neither the words, which are all absolutely the same, nor the structure of the sentences, which is similar in each case, nor the intonation, which offers no variation, nor the rhythm of speech. What distinguishes them? Are you listening to me?
Oh, yet I've got toothache, sir.
Will you listen to me, mademoiselle? You are making me very angry.
And I've had enough of it, sir. I've got toothache.
Damn and blast you! Will you listen to me?
All right. Yes, I listened. I tried. Go on.
What distinguishes them, one from another, is, on the one hand, Spanish. The H is unaspirated, the mother language. And on the other hand, is
Is what?
is an intangible thing. An intangible thing that you can only grasp after a certain length of time, after much difficulty and long experience.
Really?
Yes, really, mademoiselle. There's no rules for it. You've got to have the knack. That's all there is to it. And to have the knack requires study, study, and still more study.
Toothache.
There are, however, some particular cases where the words do vary from one language to another, but we cannot use these examples as a basis for our studies, as to all intents and purposes, they are exceptional.
Are they really, sir? I've got toothache.
Don't interrupt, and don't make me angry, for if I lose control of myself, as I was saying then, yes. These exceptional cases, which are said to be easily distinguishable, or easily differentiated, or conventionally precise if you prefer. I repeat, if you prefer, because I notice that you're no longer paying attention.
I've got toothache.
As I was saying then, certain words employed in certain phrases in common use differ totally from one language to the next, with the result that the language being spoken is in such cases easier to identify. I will give you an example. The Neo-Spanish expression widely heard in Madrid, my country is Neo-Spain, becomes in Italy, my country is...
No, Spain.
No. My country is Italy. Just tell me now, by a simple process of deduction, how you say Italy in French.
I've got a toothache.
Yet it's not really all that difficult. For the word Italy becomes in French, France. An exact translation. My country is France. And the French in Oriental becomes the Orient. My country is the Orient. And the Oriental expression, when translated into Portuguese, becomes my country is Portugal, and so on and so on.
That's enough. I've got
Toothache, toothache, teeth, teeth, teeth. I'll have them all out of you in a minute. Here is another example. The word capital takes on a different meaning depending on the language being used. So that if a Spaniard uses the phrase, I live in the capital, the word capital won't mean the same thing as it does to the Portuguese who uses the exact same expression, I live in the capital. And it's the same for the Frenchman, the Neo-Spaniard, the Oriental, the Romanian, the Sardanapolitan. As soon as you hear someone say, Mademoiselle, I am saying this for your benefit, blast you. As soon as you hear someone say, I live in the capital, you will know immediately and without difficulty whether it is Spanish, Neo-Spanish, French, Oriental, Sardanapolitan, Romanian or Latin, for you merely have to guess which capital the person who made the remark was thinking about at the precise moment they pronounced the word. But these are about the only clear examples I can give you.
Oh Lord, oh my tooth!
Silence, or I'll blow your brains out!
Just try with that!
Be quiet then! I don't want to hear another word out of you!
Toothache!
The most, what's the word? The most paradoxical, yes, that's it. The most paradoxical thing is that the hundreds of people who are completely lacking in education know how to speak these different languages. Did you hear? Repeat what I've just said.
Speak these different languages, what have I just said?
You were lucky that time. The lower classes speak a Spanish sprinkled, unbeknownst to them, with neo-Spanish words, while under the impression that they are talking Latin, or a Latin sprinkled with Oriental words, while firmly convinced that it is Romanian, or a Spanish with neo-Spanish words, while under the impression that it is Sardanapol or Spanish. Are you following me?
Yes, I am. What more do you want?
Not so much of your cheek, my puppet, or you'd better look out. But to cap it all, mademoiselle, those who say in a Latin that they take to be Spanish, I have pains in my chilblains, are as perfectly well understood by the Portuguese who hasn't got a word of Spanish, as though he were being addressed in perfect Portuguese. And believing that it is Portuguese, the Portuguese will reply, I too have pains in my chilblains, and be perfectly well understood by the Spaniard, as though he were being addressed in the best Spanish, and believing that Spanish is the language being spoken, whereas it is neither Spanish or French or Portuguese, but Latin, spoken by a neo-Spaniard. Why can't you keep still? Stop shifting your legs about and stop stamping your feet.
I've got toothache!
How does it come about that the lower classes talk in the language that they do not understand, while each person is firmly convinced that they are speaking a language that in fact they are not? They all somehow manage to communicate satisfactorily with one another.
Well, thus we never cease!
It is simply one of the inexplicable and quaint peculiarities of the vulgar empiricism of the plebs, not to be confused with experience, a paradox, a curious little sidelight. What comes into play here is quite simply, and in one word, nothing more or less than instinct. Ha ha! It would be better if you could be a little bit more attentive. I'm not the one who's taking my partial doctorates. I passed mine a long time ago. My total doctorates, in fact, and my super total diploma. Can't you see? I'm just trying to help you.
Toothache!
No manners. But it can't go on like this. Not like this. Not like this.
I'm paying attention.
At last. In order to learn what distinguishes these languages one from another, I've already said it takes practice. Let us proceed in an orderly fashion. I will try to teach you all the possible translations of the word knife.
All right, if you want to, after all.
Marie? Marie? Oh, she can't hear me. Marie! Marie! Oh, really? Marie! Marie! Marie, what's the meaning of this? You know you must come at once when I call you. I'm the one who gives the orders around here, you understand? This girl doesn't know Not a thing!
Don't take on so, monsieur. Think what it may lead to. It might take you further than you want to go. You'll go too far, you know.
I will be able to stop in time.
Oh, I've heard that before. I'd like to see it happen.
I've got toothache.
I tell you. It's beginning. That's the sign.
What sign? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Yes, what are you talking about? I've got toothache.
It's the final symptom. The worst symptom.
Nonsense! 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 Don't go away like that. I called you here to go and look for the knives. The Spanish, the French, the Oriental, the Romanian, the Sardanappolitan, the Latin, and the Spanish ones!
You needn't think you can count on me.
Here's one, mademoiselle. Here's a knife. It's a pity. This is the only one we have. But we'll try to make it serve for all the different languages. All you have to do is to say the word knife while you look closely at the object and imagine that it is in the language that you are using.
I've got toothache.
Come along then. Say nigh like nigh. Say say nigh.
Nigh.
Say say nigh.
Lie.
Say say nigh.
Knife.
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 Knife. Knife.
Knifey, knifey,
Knife.
knifey,
Knife.
knifey.
Knife. Knife.
Now you're saying it nicely.
Knife. Knife. It must be Neo-Spanish.
Drop! I feel much better now. What's the meaning of this? Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Mademoiselle. Mademoiselle. The lesson is over now. You can get up. You can go now, mademoiselle. You can pay another time. She's dead. Dead. And with my knife. She's dead. It's terrible. Marie! Marie! Come quickly, Marie! Oh no. Don't come, Marie! No, I don't want you, Marie! Marie, I don't need you anymore! I don't need you, Marie.
So you're pleased with your pupil then? I see she learned a lot from her lesson.
Yes, the lesson is over now, but she's still here. She won't go away.
Well, well.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it, Marie. I swear it wasn't me. Kind Marie, kind Marie. Marie!
Well, who else was it then? Who else could it be? Me?
I don't know, perhaps.
Perhaps it was the cat.
Perhaps, I don't know.
And it's the 40th time today. And every day is the same story. Every day. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? And at your age too. But you'll go and make yourself ill. There soon won't be any more pupils left, and a good thing too.
It's not my fault. She didn't want to learn anything. She was disobedient. She was a bad pupil. She didn't want to learn.
Liar!
It's none of your business. Oh. Forgive me.
You little murderer. Revolting little swine. You wanted to do that to me, did you? I'm not one of your blessed pupils. Put the knife back where you found it. Come along. I gave you proper warning too, only a little while. Arithmetic leads to philology, and philology leads to crime.
You said that philology was the worst of all.
It all comes to the same in the end.
I didn't know what you meant. I didn't understand. I thought when you said philology was the worst of all, you meant that it was the hardest to learn.
Liar. Old fox. Clever man like you doesn't go making mistakes about what words mean. You can't fool me.
I didn't do it on purpose.
At least you're sorry you did it then.
Oh yes, Marie. I am. I swear. I am.
Come now. I can't help but feel for you. You're not a bad boy after all. We'll try and do what we can to put things right. Don't you go doing this again.
Yes, Marie. What are we going to do now?
We're going to bury her, along with the other 39, 40 coffins in all that we made. We're going to call the undertakers and my boyfriend, August, the priest. We'll have to order wreaths.
Yes, Marie. Thank you very much. And not too expensive. The wreaths, she hasn't paid for her lesson yet.
Don't worry about it now. You go and cover her up and then we'll move her away.
Oh, yes, Marie. Yes. I could get sent to jail for this, 40 coffins. Just imagine, what would people say? What if anybody asks what's inside?
Don't go making trouble for yourself. Just say they're empty. Besides, they're used to it by now.
All the same.
Put this on if you're frightened. Then you won't be afraid anymore. It's political, you see.
Kind Marie. Oh, Marie, you are so very kind. Oh, I feel so much safer like this. You're such a good girl, Marie. Such a very good girl. And so faithful, too.
Well, sir, are you ready?
Yes, Marie. I'm ready. Take care not to hurt her.
Have you come for your lesson? Very good. He's been expecting you.